All right. It is 1 minute after, so we'll get things moving here. Great to see everybody. Thanks so much for giving us some time today. My name is Andrew Reid. I'm the founder and CEO of Rival Technology, and I'm also Jennifer's brother. And I'm here to introduce Jennifer. Jennifer is my business partner at Rival. Jennifer is the president at Rival and also our head of methodologies. And really, we've been working together for a long, long time. And Jen's got lots of expertise in building and managing communities, potentially more than really anyone else I've ever met before. So with that, I think we'll just get right into it because we've got a lot of content to cover. I was going to make a joke about the white stripes and that brother and sister duo, but I'll save that maybe for the end. So Jennifer, over to you to get going. What I'm going to do today is I'm just going to keep you on time. I will field any questions that people have. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll address those as we go or towards the end. And I'll try and add some brief commentary to help add some color and some more to Jennifer's presentation. Over to you, Jen.
All right, thanks, Andrew. Yeah, you got the brother and sister show today. I'm going to jump right in. I'm really looking forward to this presentation today. And, one of the reasons why I love communities is that I feel like they are this place that services both the needs of our research partners and the participants, the members, the people that we want to engage in research. It really has the opportunity on an almost one-to-one basis of making research better for our researchers, the opportunity to find people that are, difficult at cost. We're being asked to do more with less, while at the same time being asked to bring the voice of our customer into our processes at every step of the way, and really getting sort of good quality research results. Members, on the other hand, participants, on the other hand, I think they're a little research burned out. They're getting tons of requests to provide feedback, and they don't really know where it goes. And so the community kind of offers this opportunity to create this sort of legitimate connection between, sort of both sides in a way that makes me really happy. I mean, to me, there are sort of three, four, five, six, seven. To me, there are three sort of key things that make something a community. One is a shared mission, and I think we could have even put on this slide a transparent mission. This opportunity to actually create a legitimate connection between customers and the brands that they love, that they buy, that they follow, that they engage with. And I think when you add that transparency, you get a richer level of insight than when we're just sort of popping into somebody's day out of the blue and asking them a whole bunch of questions about things that they haven't really thought of before. Obviously, a community is the opportunity to re-engage, to develop a relationship. And as you're building that relationship, be able to sort of iteratively understand more and more about the people in our communities and what they think. I don't have, much of a sort of sales bent to this particular webinar. It's something I try hard not to do, but just to sort of level set for a moment. And there's a QR code. So while I do this little conversation about sort of who is Rival, I am going to encourage you to grab your mobile device and pick up that QR code. I think the best way to really understand what we're doing and how we have sort of repackaged research into this sort of much more modern approach is to actually do a chat yourself. You can give it a go, you can answer a couple of questions, and then if you want to just put your phone aside, you can pick it back up at the end. I believe we have the QR code on the last slide as well. So at Rival, we really believe in three core things. One is that we want to build communities with our members in mind. The respondent experience is at the heart of everything that we do because we believe very strongly that having a positive respondent experience ultimately makes your research better, faster, and less expensive. We adore the opportunity to combine quant and qual together. I think gone are the days of having to sort of have big, laborious quantitative exercises and then sort of separate qualitative exercises. And I'm going to talk about some examples of sort of how we can combine these two things together. And the last thing is, of course, strategic support and partnership. I'm going to talk a lot about tech today and how tech, I think, really enables us to live up to our best practices. But absolutely, we believe that the right kind of service for each of our individual clients is a super important part of what we offer. So I am going to focus on sort of how tech enables us, but I do want to say that I've done a lot of webinars over the last year, really around the best practice in modern community management, and we've kind of boiled it down to these 4 things. And I want to try to connect how we can use the right kinds of platforms in order to live up to these best practices. I'm going to unpack each of them here as we go. So the first one is engaging people where they are. And where are we? We're on our mobile devices. I think that having this opportunity, this is our favorite device. This is the device that most people have, regardless of where they live. That's true globally, how old they are, their socioeconomic status, all of those things, the mobile device very much cuts through. And so when we can move research onto a mobile device, we really have something now that's in everybody's hands, it's extremely portable, and it opens up a lot of opportunities for us and the kinds of methodologies that we can do.
Maybe I'll add, if I can add 2 things really quick, Jen. I think no one turns off the SMS functions on their phone, the notifications of SMS. So we're finding that we're getting just phenomenal response rates, mostly because it's just not something you turn off. If you have a survey app on your phone or you have other apps, you most likely turn off those notifications that they get annoying. The other is that, I think in looking at the more modern way to do research, it's really about mirroring chat. Chat is all about leave, return, leave, return. Communities are all about leave, return, leave, return. So there's this really nice, I think, synergy of the mechanics of chat and how we can evolve communities to really work more with those natural states that Jen's talking about that people have.
Absolutely, 100%. And, one of the questions I get, this makes a lot of sense if you're thinking about sort of younger generations, sort of anyone sort of 35 and younger. For them, very much their mobile device is their number one device. SMS is the main means of having conversations with their friends, their family, and with brands. But it's true across generations. And we definitely have communities that we run that skew older, gamblers on cruise ships. Actually, there's a couple of ones that have to do with sort of gaming and gambling that really does skew quite a bit older. We have no trouble recruiting people into communities using this SMS method. I think one of the gifts the pandemic gave us is that we all got used to using our phones to communicate with each other in a way that maybe all generations hadn't before. The mobile device also gives us this opportunity for frictionless recruitment. Sorry, I just want to say one other thing about mobile. We believe very strongly in developing everything for mobile, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't work on desktops, as opposed to the other way around, which is, I think, a lot of technology that's out there in the research space right now has been developed for a big screen for your desktop, and then it's been sort of crammed into a mobile device so that it works on mobile. And our approach has really been very much the opposite of that, and we have found that to be very freeing, especially in the exercise of recruitment. And frictionless recruitment is something that's super important to me. This opportunity to sort of say that there's no app that you have to download, there's no login. None of us want to remember another password, an experience that's really easy for people to join. And I'm going to play this Dell video. I think this does the best job of really, this is very member facing, and I think it does the best job of talking about how sort of simple it is to recruit when you're in a mobile SMS space.
Are you eager to share your advice or questions with us? Join the Dell neighborhood and help us turn your opinions and expertise into actual improvements. The neighborhood is a mobile chat community where you can share your feedback with us through videos, photos, and text. By joining the neighborhood, you'll be a part of influencing the products and services we create here at Dell. So how does it work? Click the link in this video, follow the steps, tell us where you live, what Dell products you own or use, and officially accept your invite to join the neighborhood. Designed with your preferences in mind, you'll receive SMS push notifications that make it easy for you to complete chats via text. Prefer to use a laptop? No problem. Dell neighborhood chats are also accessible via the web. And it doesn't stop there. Every time you complete a short survey that we send you, you are automatically entered into a prize giveaway where you get the chance to win gift cards, Dell merchandise, and Dell electronics. So what are you waiting for? Click the link and join the neighborhood today.
I mean, I think I love that video because it really does show that sort of notion of being frictionless. One of the other things that makes recruitment into communities better when we're using this sort of mobile approach is that your context shifting isn't quite as great. So imagine now that you're somebody a little bit younger, you're on TikTok or you're on sort of social, you're on Instagram, you're watching Reels, whatever the case may be, and you're kind of like into the video stream. And you get asked to join a community or answer a survey, and you click the link because you're interested in the brand or you're interested in the incentive. And then you get taken to this sort of very traditional market research survey. It's easy to be like, actually, you know what? I want to go back to that sort of entertaining place that I was. And so by having something that feels conversational, that fits into your mobile device and into the context that you were already in, we really find much stronger recruitment rates. And so I'm going to show you a little bit more of an edgy recruitment video that was done for Seattle Surge, who are a esports company. And you can see though how, in that particular target, we're still able to give it this sort of frictionless recruitment.
So you're telling me there's a chance I could win a free hoodie just by joining the Surge wave? Come on, man. You know I never lie to you. Check this out. So all you gotta do is open up the Surge TikTok, click the link in the bio, answer a few easy questions, give them some feedback, finish it up, and then bam! Look at those hoodies. Oh my God, I can't decide. That gray one is so nice, but what the hell are you doing in my garage? This isn't your house? We pulled up in this car. Am I still gonna get a hoodie? Click the link in bio, I gotta go. You mother.
That never gets old to me. And then the last piece that I want to talk about, this idea of engaging where people are and in the context that they're in. I mean, one of the places that your customers are is already within your ecosystem. They're already in your databases. They're already engaged with they're already going along the customer journey. So another way that we can use tech to really make that super simple is by using APIs to create sort of an auto recruitment experience. And I'll give the example of one of our customers, Brunswick. Brunswick is a boat manufacturer, and they are, so somebody goes out and buys a boat and, sort of comes to join the Brunswick ecosystem. And Brunswick is interested in having a community of people, of boaters that they can talk to on an ongoing basis. They also want to make sure that new boaters, as they come in, are also being part of that community. And if you're a researcher that has done any community recruitment, you know that it can be sort of complicated to be constantly on top of that. Like, what does that mean? Once a month, I have to go in and pull a file and email the people and invite them to join and go through all of the steps over and over again. That becomes sort of labor intensive. And so we end up not doing it, despite the fact that it is a best practice. The API allows us to set that up and have a natural flow. So when somebody comes in, they register their boat, they're offered to join a newsletter on boating. They're also able to just simply click a box that says, actually, I'd like to also join your insights community. And that automatically triggers now an opportunity, SMS notification that allows them to join the community. And once it's set up, no one has to touch it again. And so there's constantly a trickle of new customers that come in and join that community, which I think is extremely powerful for both the insights that they have and for the sort of time management that's required. This can be.
Sorry, John.
Oh, you see, little brother isn't interrupting me in the middle of my webinar. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that in the case Jen's talking about, what happens on the trigger is we actually we receive the phone number of that individual, their name, the boat they purchased, where they live, which we can then pipe into a very personalized chat. And so now instead of just getting a generic chat, you're getting a chat, an invitation that is really for you and speaking for you. I always talk about how it's annoying when you get off the airplane and you're late and you get that customer satisfaction survey And it's like, you knew the plane was late. You knew where I sat. Why can't you use some of this to give me a personalized experience?
That's right.
And that's, I think, that future we're very much trying to be a part of.
And that opportunity to sort of combine now from your profile, and we're going to talk about profile later, the opportunity to combine database elements of your profile and questions that you ask together, just I think makes your analysis that much stronger. It actually works the other way as well. So imagine now, one of the questions was, how much are you, how much have you been enjoying your boat this summer? And somebody's response is, well, I haven't really used it that much. Okay, well, why not? Well, I actually don't feel like I'm comfortable enough on the water. I've realized I need more training. There's actually the opportunity for that statement, that answer, to be then triggered back into the Brunswick CRM and allow Brunswick now to actually send out an invitation for additional training or sell services around, whatever navigation training that they might have. So that ability to connect APIs really adds to sort of a level of efficiency that we don't necessarily see very often in insight communities and in feedback.
Can I add one more comment, Jennifer?
Yeah, you can. Actually, this is the I'm going to stop so you can add a comment and ask your questions that people have.
Yes, for sure. The other thing we're seeing is, and I think there's this bleeding of customers that are part of insight communities that you also potentially want to use from a marketing perspective. And we're starting to see that bleeding of research and marketing together. So we do have a handful of customers that are getting responses from their customers, pushing those into their databases and using that for further targeting and personalization, going as far as doing things like lookalike modeling, where if you ask, obviously the right segment, enough questions, you then can project up to your overall database. I think that is a really interesting evolution of the research function, something that quite frankly, years ago would have been a very big faux pas. And now it's starting to seem like an obvious place for where some brands want to go, where it's not just about getting insights. It's also about, how do I do a better job of providing a personalized marketing experience to my customers?
You got it. I sometimes refer to that as breaking the fourth wall of research.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew, were there any questions on that section that we want to just take a minute to answer now?
No, I think we'll just keep going.
Right. One of the things that we really believe strongly is the notion that research is a conversation, not a test. And Andrew talked about how chat culture is this sort of leave return. Think about, the conversation that you have with your friends. I have a group chat with a bunch of women. We've been trying to plan a movie night together for the last 3 weeks. That whole conversation doesn't happen in one sitting. That is, we've been going back and forth. I pick it up, we have a conversation, it veers off into something else, and then I come back to it again. And we really want research to mimic that in a way that then gives us sort of insightful information. And I've done multiple webinars on best practices. There's some Wharton School analysis that talks about the fact that when you're in a conversation on your mobile device, you're much more likely to be more honest, that you have more insightful conversations. And we feel like taking people out of sort of a test or filling out a form mode into something that feels more natural gives us ultimately more natural responses. So and that's great. That's amazing. Okay, thanks, Jen. That's a perfect, sort of concept. But then how do we actually do that? And so there's a couple of ways I think that technology helps us to get there. And one of them is sort of this notion of authoring. I do want to say that for us, when we say about it's a chat or it's a conversation, these are not moderated chats or conversations. These are sort of scripted, like a traditional questionnaire that you are able to sort of control. You've got your question cards that you're used to, logic, piping, masking, rotation, all of the things that we need in order to have sort of sophisticated research going on in the background, presented in a way that feels conversational. So we have a little blowout here on the far right of sort of what our card picker looks like. And so on our platform, each card represents sort of a bubble that you might see in a text-based conversation. And in the middle, of course, are the question cards that you can have. On the right or some specialty cards I'm not going to jump into, but I do want to talk a little bit about the messaging cards. This idea that what makes it conversational is that it's not just one question after the next, after the next, after the next, that there's feedback and fun that exist within the context of the chat. If you think about the way that you chat with your friends and family, it's mixed modal. It's like you're texting, and then sometimes it's, you're just sending a sticker or an emoji thumbs up or a GIF if you're my husband, who likes to have entire chat conversations just with GIFs. So we've developed a system that allows you to have those different kinds of message cards and that sort of feedback. So my question was, the last time you were in store, did you have a positive experience? If you say yes, the response to that should be amazing. We can't wait to hear all about it. If you say no, the response to that question should be, well, I'm extra glad that you're here today because I really want to hear about what we could do to make your experience better next time. And being able to sort of provide that kind of conversational back and forth in a way where you're not having to sort of be manually doing it all the time is extremely powerful.
It's Jennifer, I was talking to the CMO of a large beer brand last week, and he was telling me that he makes all of his people take their tracking studies and all, because he wants to understand what the experience is like so that you can, I think, measure the quality of the data that you receive. And I think the two things that you said a lot, Jen, is one, if you sit down with someone and you need to get five answers out of them, whether it's a work colleague, your children, or someone else or a friend, you don't sit down and say hi and ask 5 questions. You have a conversation, and that's part of this need to get people out of test taking mode. When they see a very traditional survey, you get in this mindset of, okay, this is a survey. And usually your first thought is, how long is this going to be and how painful is this going to be, versus this is a conversation. Jen's done a bunch of research on research and found that what's interesting is people actually often take longer filling out chats than they do surveys, because they slow down, because you read everything, because you're more thoughtful in your responses. So just to add a little bit of a color there.
Well, I like that often the length of time on a one-to-one comparison is a little longer, but then the satisfaction score between the two is significantly higher. So you're right, Andrew, even though it might have taken them a moment longer to do it, their impression of how long it took is actually shorter, and their impression of what that experience was like is significantly more positive because it felt more comfortable. Video, I mean, Andrew and I could probably spend an hour talking about video and the power of video alone. And we do, video very much is at the heart of what we do. And it's sort of connected to this ability to have this device. We spent a lot of time talking about video as a feedback mechanism. So instead of, now I've got this, you might have noticed in the question cards, there were 3 different kinds of open ends: text open ends, image open ends, video open ends. And so this ability to sort of easily, in an extremely streamlined fashion, without having to go off and do something else, give people the opportunity to open up to pull open their camera, face it to themselves and just answer a question, face it to the outside world and, do a tour of their pantry, go on a mission, be in store in that moment, be watching a show and giving your responses on how you feel about that show at the same time, in your hand, and being able to sort of take video of what your setup looks like is extremely powerful. I want to talk a little bit though about how we can use video capabilities, because that's sort of methodological from a project perspective. But how can we use video really from a community perspective and to sort of live inside of some best practices? And when we talk about community, I mean, I've been talking about community for 25 years. We talk about this need to have this sort of give and take that goes on with yourself and the members of your community. And in the olden days, what did that really mean? Well, that was writing newsletters and creating information portals, and a lot of weight that went around communities that took our clients a long time to execute on. It took work to kind of keep all of that up and running. And when you really looked at the stats, very few members of your community were actually interested enough to go out on their own, remember their password, and find that information. They do want responses though. And so we're really finding, I would say over the last 2 or 3 years, increasingly the opportunity to use video in a going out fashion. I'm going to show you actually 2 examples, and then maybe I'll talk about it for 1 more minute. So ways that we can use video for the purposes of engagement. I'm going to start with this video, and this is ASA, which is a community of middle and high school students that we have.
Hi, my name is Mackenzie, and I'm a member of Project Waypoint, here to welcome you to today's chat. Project Waypoint is filled with teens just like you and me who are trying to navigate our future and find out exactly what that looks like, which can be kind of an intimidating process, and we're all different. These chats help ASA or Project Waypoint build some amazing programs and tools that help people just like you and me. And they give away some amazing monthly prizes just for answering a few questions. It's super fun and really easy. So what do you say? Come join Project Waypoint today.
Now, I will say, if you do the peach soda demo chat that was on that first slide, you might notice the same woman in both things. In this case, this is actually one of our own employees, because our client was a little camera shy and we felt that somebody younger was appropriate for that piece. But you got a lot of information about what Project Waypoint was in a very short amount of time. And that's a video that Mackenzie, whose real name is Katie, is just gone outside and taken for herself. That took about 10 minutes to do. And the power of that video to make the member on the other side feel like they're actually talking to people is incredible. We also can see how this works to actually thank members on the other side of it once they've done some work for you. And I'll play play about 30 seconds of this Russell and Sierra video.
What's up, community?
What's up, guys? It's Russ and C here.
Listen, we're fired up just to be a part of this with you all. For you guys to partner up with this and be able to launch this and create this with you guys. This is special. We're fired up.
Yeah, your input was amazing. It's really cool to see the things that you guys liked and gravitated towards. And it was very helpful in the process of us building out the brand for starters. So we want to thank you guys so much for being involved and being active and being part of the special process for us.
Russell says that he's fired up about 4 more times in that video. So I'm gonna pause it. I mean, again, imagine in this, of course, not every community has a celebrity, has a celebrity sponsor to it. But imagine that you've been participating in a community. In this case, it was while they were developing their brand. So we couldn't really tell the members who the brand was or who the celebrities were connected to it. We recruited a bunch of Gen Zs who were able to sort of help with messaging and logos, and even like collection, selecting fabrics and what elements of different collections they liked. And at the end of that, having this opportunity to be thanked directly, again, to me is a million times more powerful than a newsletter that we would have sent them. A third way I don't have an example of that we can use video is also just in instructions. We have a community of moviegoers where we really wanted them to go into the theater and take pictures of their experiences as movie theaters were opening back up. And we actually sent somebody to a theater to actually take some video talking about what they wanted the members to do while they were there. So instead of, again, a whole bunch of text, too long did not read, a quick video was able to sort of express that piece. So I really feel very bullish and happy about how we can use video to fulfill this need to have feedback and real connection with our communities.
And I mean, Jennifer, you didn't talk a lot about video capture, but obviously video capture is a huge part of, I think receiving feedback. There's especially people that would much prefer to record a video. It's funny when we talk to especially things like people like gamers and some younger groups, they would prefer to answer everything on video if they could, because it's just how they're used to communicating. And one quick little story, we find certain clients really gravitate towards video. We've done a lot of work with the Oprah Winfrey Network, and recorded we're working on one of their shows, and they shipped Oprah herself all of the feedback, and she actually watched every single video along with the data that she saw, and it really helped her look at the data in a much different way and make a decision that stood out much more. And so from an internal reporting perspective, this combination of video and quantitative insights, I think, is really the future that really helps to engage those internal stakeholders and to get them to really consume that data in a much more significant way.
Yeah, I think it kind of fits with that idea at the beginning, which is that the community offers that kind of balanced approach, and video is a perfect example. For the researcher, the video is really going to make your data come alive. It's going to, I think originally there was a time where we would sort of make a video reel and produce a report separately in our consulting sister company, Reach 3 Insights. And they discovered what happened was the video went viral in the organization and the report kind of clunked along in the early days. And now they package the video and the quantitative data up together and really get people paying attention to and reading the insights that they have gathered, and really elevating that within their organizations. So the video is amazing on that side. And then I won't belabor further why I think video is incredible for managing communities. Okay, let's talk about personalized experience. This may be, just going to let you all know, my favorite child. I don't have a favorite child, but this is my favorite child. Because to me, the thing that makes something a community is this opportunity to get to know people and to actually build on that profile. But one of the challenges that I've seen in platforms, quite frankly, in platforms that I had a hand in developing, in the early 2000s, was that we love the idea of profile. But then what happens is the only questionnaire that the only survey that everybody answers when they join a community is the first study. And so what do we end up doing? Well, we end up then thinking like, oh my goodness, we better ask every single profile question that we can possibly think of. But I want you to think about when you sit down and meet somebody and you're trying to forge a relationship with them, you do not launch into a whole litany of personal questions. You'd get, a drink thrown in your face and somebody would walk away. When we think about young people, they've been we've actively taught them. I'm the mother of 2 Gen Zs. We've actively taught them not to share their private and personal information with strangers on the internet. We are ultimately strangers on the internet trying to collect their private information. It's important to sort of recognize that that's true. And so the opportunity to have dynamic profile really gives us this opportunity to uncouple the fact that you want to get to know someone with this need to sort of be a little bit overeager and ask all of those questions all at once. The other thing that profile, so you're going to build profile, you're going to learn about someone. Sometimes the people that annoy me the most, I end up having to go to a lot of events with my husband. And, there's certain people that I meet every time and they never remember who I am. And they ask me the same questions over and over again. And I start to dread them when it's time to sort of approach them and say hello, that I'm going to have to go through this process again. And the same is true in research. If you've asked me how old I am or how much money I've made or what my favorite brands are, you really should be able to remember that. And so tech helps us to do this by having platforms that allow us to have access to that profile at sort of 3 key places. One is within the chat or the survey itself, so that if I already know how old you are and I only want to ask these questions to younger people, I can actually create that logic directly in the script so that I can skip over. I don't have to re-ask you again in order to have that logic happen in each individual study. I want to be able to have access to that in the filtering of my sample. If I know already, I've got a community of pet owners, and I know already that I want only to talk to the cat owners, and I already know what animals people own, it is a million times more appropriate from a community perspective to be able to just say, okay, I only want to talk to the cat owners, and not have to rescreen that again and then tell those poor dog owners, yeah, not you today. And the last place, of course, is in the data analysis. The data analysis is where we're going to want to have access to variables across that you've asked across the board. And to me, something is not a community platform if it cannot live up to these three core pieces, because it is so salient to the best practice around managing community.
It's also, I think, a big part of that experience, like Jen said, and doing the more sophisticated the survey, the more that you can put into it, leveraging variables, piping, skipping, masking, the better experience that someone has, and they know that you're taking that extra time not to ask them the same question. I think people are increasingly wary and aware when it's like, even it's as simple as stop asking me the same question over and over again. This, or even in the new world, if it's in the database, well, then pull it over from the database and don't ask me.
That's right.
It's a better brand experience for everyone. I always say that even if it's a survey interaction, if it's branded, that is a brand experience. And, those need to think through that. Even though you're collecting serious data, there's no reason why it can't be a positive experience for people.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of my favorite features right now is this sort of opportunity. So if you're recruitment and you want your recruitment chat to be short, like super, super short, you're really just trying to sort of have a quick get to know you, make it be warm, talk about what the exercise, what is the mission of the community as a whole, get them, ask them to join and call it a day, not launch into 10 minutes worth of profile questions. So you also need a platform then though. So now the next survey, not everybody answers, right? And we don't get 100% response rates across the board. So this opportunity to have a system that's smart enough to say, oh, I need age for this question, but Andrew didn't do that survey with that chat when I asked age. Okay, so I'm going to actually ask age this time, and then I'm going to record it so I don't ever have to ask it again. Whereas, okay, nope, Kelvin did answer age, perfect. I can just set the logic from there. And having tech that can look after that for you allows you to behave appropriately. I think a lot of time as researchers, we know that we don't want questionnaires to be long. We know that we don't want them to be repetitive, but the work involved in living up to that is not consistent with the amount of time that we actually have. And so, the right kinds of platforms, I think, can do that heavy lift for us and allow us to have that relationship that we want with the members of our community. Maybe my second favorite feature ever is smart distributions, which to me kind of go hand in hand with this idea of profile variables. And to us, smart distributions have a couple of elements to them. We did talk about filtering, so the ability, of course, to only invite the people that are appropriate for the study that you're doing. But there's sort of two pieces to it. I'm actually going to talk about time zones first, and then I'm going to talk about daisy chaining. Time zones. So one of the things that we found, especially with SMS, is the opportunity to sort of get somebody at the right point of the day. So let's say that's for your community, like 5:30 in the evening. So you're kind of getting people as they're commuting home, they've gotten on the bus, they've walked in the door, they've working from home, they've pushed away from their computer, they've picked up their phone, they're kind of looking for something to do that isn't going to be too taxing. So you want to be able to get that invite out, that SMS notification out to them at about 5:30. In North America, we have this challenge, which is that, if you're doing a study among Americans, there are 4 time zones to deal with. And so to actually hit 5:30 for each person might require you to have four separate files and those sorts of things. So tech that actually can pay attention to what time zone somebody is in, we've found to be really powerful. So you can say, send this out at 5:30, and a platform is smart enough to know, okay, it's 5:30 on the East Coast, it's 5:30 Central, Mountain, et cetera, et cetera. The other piece, though, is this opportunity to have a daisy chain. I've been to so many market research conferences in my career, and I feel like in every single one of them, no matter what the sort of meta topic is, there's a conversation about the fact that questionnaires are ultimately too long. So how do we really solve that? Well, we can solve it by having profile, which immediately takes a certain number of questions out because you don't have to re-ask them. But we can also solve it by cutting that into sort of more snackable sizes of studies, things that are more like, I have 15 minutes worth of questions, but I can actually make that into 5-minute chats as I go. Again, the weight of that as a research manager, as somebody doing project execution, feels like, I mean, am I really going to get that much lower of a response rate if I just ask all 15 at once? I'm just going to ask all 15 minutes at once. That's easier for me. And I'll get the data and it'll be fine. And the fact of the matter is, in my opinion, the data that you're getting at towards the end of that starts to have people are paying a lot less attention to the answers. They just want to get through it. And we can actually use daisy chaining that says, like, okay, at the end of this study, after, set a timer and 24 hours later, send them the next one and then send them the next one. And that really allows us to sort of live up to this shorter questionnaire approach without the additional weight of having to actually be managing that. It doesn't matter where somebody is. And I'm going to give you an example. We have a home builder client who's really interested right now in doing quite a deep dive into the livability of new homes. So they want to talk to new homeowners. They actually have about 45 minutes worth of questions, maybe even an hour worth of questions that they would like new homeowners to go through. And this includes everything from taking videos of different parts of their home, using click maps to sort of look at the floor plans and talk about what they like and what they don't like after they've moved in. It's really quite extensive, the activity. So what we've done is we've broken that out into 4 activities. A first one that's really easy to do, that introduces what the exercise is and recruits them into it. A middle one, a middle 2 actually, that'll give them this opportunity to now be in their home and have time to take the videos. And then a last one that is kind of more of a sit down and look at the floor plan exercise. And imagine that individuals are going to be at all sorts of different stages of that exercise on any given day. It has about a 2-week field window. We were able to sort of set that whole thing up, hit go, and actually just have people, no matter where they are the next day and the timing that we've set, actually just send automatically out those smart invitations. And so a study that could have been extremely labor intensive to execute becomes something that is better, easier on the researcher and better, easier on the respondent themselves.
Maybe I'll just add 2 points. One is it's from time to time we have clients set up. Sometimes you answer 6 or 7 questions, and then you actually have more time in your hands. So that ability to say, hey, do you have time? Is it cool if we ask you 5 or 6 more questions? And the daisy chained them right into continue on to the chat they're in. And then the other was just a comment about what I call the bear hug. I think a lot of surveys are like this big, long, awkward hug that you can't get out of, that you're stuck in. It's not a great experience. It doesn't make you want to go back and do that again. And so for us, it's making sure you're always, it's like the best concert you've been to is the concert that you wanted more of. The best dinner party you went to is the one when you got home and you said, I could have stayed there for 2 more hours. That is the experience you want to leave people with, not this feeling of, oh my goodness, when is this going to end? And, you are welcome, insert brand, that I'm giving you this much time, versus something that feels much more natural and extrinsically motivating.
100%. The best incentive, the best engagement activity that you can possibly do in a community is have the actual work, the actual study, survey, chat, questionnaire, whatever the heck you want to call it, in and of itself be a positive experience. Because if that was a positive experience, then you're going to come back and you're going to do something else. If it's a difficult experience and you're using incentives to drag people along through the exercise, you're not getting the kind of deep, rich insight that you really ultimately want. Side note, incentives, always good, always important. I'm not saying no incentives, but the actual experience is the most important piece of it. Andrew, one other thing I'll just quickly say about smart invitations. I got 1 more minute on my timing, is that for companies that have multiple brands that are trying to sort of deal with, okay, I've got all of these different brands. I think that that's another place where the opportunity to sort of filter on the basis of profile. So you can actually pull from the database which brand they came from, or tag from their recruitment which brand they came from. And so now you actually know, okay, this particular brand, this particular person is engaged with this brand. And then you can sort of send out invites and still have more of a global community. Which I think also helps to build efficiency, which is where I am right now. I think as a researcher, one of the things that we hear, I sit through a lot of calls. One of the things we hear a lot is, I've had communities before, it took it took a really long time to manage. It was a lot of work. And so I think that really staring that concern in the face is something that we've done. And I do want to talk about sort of two elements of it. One is a sort of feature element, which is having this opportunity to have some project management that exists within the platform itself. Like an easy, we have like an easy one-stop shop that you can go regardless of what level of service you're receiving, regardless of how engaged you are in the actual day-to-day management of your community, or driving the platform yourself. A simple place that you can go to get the most important information that you need from any given study: the export of the data, the review of the top line and reporting, the opportunity to preview the survey itself, something about what the participation stats were, how many people completed it, all in one place that sort of keeps track over time. I think it's funny that we talk so much about, email boxes being this cluttered place, and it's very hard to cut through email boxes from a respondent perspective. I don't know what I do know what your email box looks like, and it frightens me because I'm one of those people that can't have any notifications. I think you probably have 10,000 notifications. That's true for our research partners as well, that their email boxes are also cluttered. So if you're sort of only using email in order to sort of keep track of where everything is, or you're trying to sort of store that in different places, that can actually be prohibitive to really engaging the power, which is this opportunity to say, I think I actually asked a question about that last month. I'm going to just jump in, remind myself how I asked the question, have a quick look at what the top lines were, get access to that data so that I can use it again. So some sort of project management system, I think, is really important.
We started with SMS because it was, I think, the most logical and the best channel right now. At the end of the day, it's really ultimately all about choice. Is you want to give people choice. I mean, for me and for a lot of people on this call, when you wake up and you open up your Outlook in the morning, or whatever mail client you use, your first goal is like, what can I delete? You're on this hunt to delete things. And, I think our industry surveys fit into that. That being said, there's some people that very much, want to use email. So we actually are going to build email. We've got an integration with other people's apps. So if you have apps that you have customers on, well, let's just go to where they already are. If you are into sports, you may use Twitter as your go-to. And so, we've got a up and coming integration with Twitter where you'll be able to get your invites DM'd to you through Twitter. So really choice, I think, is what makes sense. That being said, SMS is really proving itself to be above and beyond, I think, the most open and the channel that drives the biggest response rates.
100%. So there's sort of a tech element of keeping yourselves organized. And the other element, though, this is not a tech element. This is really a service element. And I think it's about finding the right partner who will be there to support you. Again, I think I've heard, I know I've heard, stories of, well, I licensed this platform, and now I've kind of been left on my own now to figure out how to make it work. And we know that we really want to make our research partners. We really want to be able to elevate what they're doing. We want them to be able to focus on what's the most important part of the exercise, which for the most part is bringing that insights back into their organization. It's not necessarily thinking about all of the pieces of project execution or being, community management experts on a sort of day in, day out basis. And so for us, we think that having a wide spectrum of services is key. Everything from, those clients that are really want to be able to roll up their sleeves and they do want to just do it all on themselves, for themselves, a platform that they can go in and run all of the pieces of their projects on their own. In the middle of that is this sort of do it with me, somebody who says, I know what the questions I want to ask, and I know how to analyze my data, but I could sure use some help in the middle in terms of the project execution. I could sure use some help in the community recruitment, the community health management, all the way through to the far end of it, which is actually, I want a research consultant to come in and actually really help me understand what the challenges my company is having, and really be able to sort of craft and deliver sort of that full spectrum of support and analysis. And so sort of having that flexibility, I think, is key. All right, that gets us to the end of the slides that are here, Andrew. So you let me know if there are any questions.
Yeah, we'll do. I've got one question right here from Diego, which is a great question. Can you talk about your international capabilities, multi-language WhatsApp distribution instead of text, minimum number of members in a community to have a good response rate, and suggested number of survey activities per month to keep members engaged? This is perfect. I will take the first part, Jennifer, you can take the second part. We right now are running in 24 languages. And so beyond mainland China, we haven't really run into any problems. We've actually fielded studies in like rural Africa. Our technology will run natively on Facebook Messenger. So in some cases that really, it makes a lot of sense. And so from a global perspective, multi-language isn't a problem. Question about WhatsApp distribution. WhatsApp, the one challenge with WhatsApp is just that you need to create a business account on your end, and then we need to link to that account. We are not able to just send out and have people just, the way that they've set up WhatsApp is that the partner we work with, or wherever the brand is, if your team will set up a WhatsApp business account for the purposes of running a community, and then we can link to that, then we can send out WhatsApp messages. So definitely something that we're interested in. We have a couple clients that are actively working on this, and we will be building those integrations. But that's really the reality on WhatsApp. As you know, there's a lot of people that prefer to use that. Obviously, there's big cost savings in using WhatsApp and not having to send SMS messages. Jennifer, I'll pass to you to talk about minimum numbers in a community to have good response rates and suggested number of activities or surveys per month to keep people engaged.
Perfect. And I see one other one on length of survey, which is one of my favorite questions. I mean, the minimum number of members, it depends entirely on how qualitative or quantitative you're trying to be. I mean, we have communities that are 100 people because it's a very close qualitative exercise. We have communities that are 10,000 people because you're really wanting to get, 1,000 completes on any given study because you really want to be able to sort of slice and dice your data. So it's sort of difficult to give that the answer to that question without sort of knowing the context of the particular need. In general, I would say a lot of our communities are sort of in the 2,500 range. If we can sort of predictably get a sort of 50-60% response rate, you're in a place where you can have a nice robust sample size at any given time. In terms of the number of studies, in my opinion, you want to have about 2 touch points per person per month. That's kind of the sweet spot. Absolutely, 100%. We have communities that might sometimes need to do 3 or 4 things in a month, though I do think you are at that point trying, it's pretty invasive at that stage of the game. So generally, if I'm trying to calculate how big a community should be, I think about how many studies you need to do in a month, how many completes you like to do. I use depending on the audience, because not everyone, some people get better than a 50% and some people get less than a 50%. It depends on the audience. But I kind of factor in what kind of response rates I think I'm going to get. And that's how I do that calculation. To me, the question about how long is about cognitive load. So it's about 5 minutes, to tell you the truth, is in my opinion about the right length, which sounds scary, but if you remember that you don't have to ask any of your profile questions, those things are all gone, you've already asked them. It's actually not hard. You can actually get a lot of data in 5 minutes. How many questions is that going to be is usually the next question I get, and not all questions are the same. So if I'm going to ask a study that is going to ask for a whole bunch of video, maybe I'm only going to have 5 questions in something where I'm asking for a bunch of video. This exercise is really about video. If it's a quick sort of hot or not kind of thumbs up, thumbs down, you could probably ask, 40 questions in 5 minutes. So I just always want people to think about where is the respondent? What are they doing in their actual lives at the time that you asked them to do something? And then what is the appropriate amount of time to take up their day at that moment? We for sure have chats that go on for an hour, but in general, for those ones, we've pre-recruited. We've sort of said like, hey, we work with a lot of media companies, and let's say you want to watch You want people to actually do a follow along of the Grammy Awards because you want to understand, advertising and the hosts and, how long people pay attention for. You absolutely can spend an hour, 2 hours, however long the Grammys are, 3 hours, having people chat with you while they're doing something. But in general, in those cases, we've sort of said, hey, would you like to do this first?
Yep, that's great. Great answer, Jen. Next question is, how we feel about apps that community members can download to engage. I get this question a lot. I think I'm not sure how many people really want to have a market research app on their phone. I've got a lot of things on my phone and I'd love to have less apps, not more. The benefit of apps really comes down to geo-targeting from my perspective, is that it allows you to do geo-triggered surveys. We are building an SDK right now to allow us to work inside of other people's apps. If you have an app that your customers use or a branded app, let's go there. Let's go inside of there and use that to be able to pop geo surveys. What is nice, and there's some new, right? There's I think we're going to be able to do geo inside of the browser very soon. Looks like there's some legislation that's coming down against Android and Apple to really kind of push their monopoly on the App Store a little bit. So I feel like in the browser we'll be able to do more soon. And then the other thing that's interesting is we can pull people's location. We can, ask people if we can pull their location, but they say yes, and it shows us where they are. So there's some things we can do there. I don't know if Jennifer, you want to add anything in
Yeah,
about
I do. I
apps?
want to add two things. I mean, I just want to sort of double down on your statement, which is I would rather be in the app that they already have for your brand than be something extra. Our chats are delivered in a mobile on the mobile web. So anywhere that you can put a mobile web page, you can do our chats. And so a mobile SDK will allow us to sort of trigger invitations. But even now, within apps, within our clients' apps, we can absolutely do studies inside of the apps themselves. What we have that is not an app, but gives us that same sort of thing, and I didn't talk about it on the slide we were in, is a contact card. So one of the things that we did when we were first working with SMS was sort of start to worry about spam, the increasing spam and scams text messages. And the fact that we're sort of sending out a text message with a link on it and asking people to click a link does sort of raise some trust concerns. And the way we've addressed that is in two ways. One is that all of our communities have their own dedicated number, so that it's not coming from sort of some random number and it's a different number every time. It's a dedicated number. And because we can have a dedicated number, we can actually also send a contact card. So imagine that you've joined the Dell community, which is called the Dell neighborhood. When you join that community and you put in your SMS number, you actually receive a contact card that says the Dell neighborhood. You can save in your contacts just like you save in everybody else's contacts. And so now when you're receiving that SMS notification to do a study, it's coming specifically from, hey, the Dell neighborhood, which I think gives us some of the things that are important that you might get out of an app without the need to have an app that somebody needs to download, and that kind of at any given time, it's not too hard to just, long click it and delete it. Last call for questions.
There was a couple more, but just realizing that we're just pretty much at time, I think we'll just we'll cap it there. We went through a lot. Jennifer, I'm really thinking that the next webinar we do, maybe we'll talk all about incentives. There's a lot to say about incentives and incentive strategies, and I think a lot of people have some interest in that. So an idea for future. But thank you, Jennifer, for your insights, and thank you everyone for the great questions and for giving us some of your time today.
Have
Have an awesome day, everyone.